All right. Uh, anyone ever felt this way? Sick of dealing with time wasted? Most people in business at some point in time have quality businesses. That the truth is, quality businesses need quality clients. And so, what we're doing at the qualifying stage is we're trying to filter fast for fit. We're trying to filter as quickly as we possibly can. Make sure. The first one is BANT criteria, page 51. It's actually. Has anyone ever heard of BANT, by the way, before? It's a really simple qualifying criteria, and I love it as just a reminder of some items to tick off when you're going through your sales process, right? This has been around for a long time. I think it's an IBM thing from like maybe 60s, 70s, something like that. It's been around for a very long time, right? So if you haven't heard of it, it's been around for a long time. Um, Four criteria that we want to make sure we cover off on in the conversation. And like I said, this is just a really good reminder. So the first one is budget, making sure that we're aware of budget. I tend to steer away from trying to get a fixed budget from them. Okay, and we'll go through that in the actual frame, in the qualifying framework a bit more. I try to steer away from saying to them, what is your budget? That's a bad question. There's better ways to do it, but you need to get an understanding of what their budget is, right? By the way, let's just deal with this now. Why are we asking for a budget? What's the point? What do you guys reckon the point is?
Qualify properly.
Qualify properly? Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say that someone asking for yeah, don't waste my time having to give you a quote if you're not even
Yep.
able to afford it.
Okay. So when you're asking for a budget, are you trying to confirm how much they're willing to spend? Yeah.
Yeah, like I give them an idea of like if they're asking for a triple locking security screen door,
Mhm.
I give you an idea of what one of those usually costs.
Okay.
So they can just go multiple three, and nah, I can't afford that.
Cool. So the way that I think about it is budget is more to confirm how much thought they've put into the financial consideration for whatever they're buying. Right? You don't need a number. It's nice to have a number, and that's why we generally recommend to use a budget range instead of just trying to get a budget out of them. If you say to them, what's your budget? That it's like deer in the headlights. I don't know. You should be able to tell me what the price is, right? But what you're really trying to figure out is like how much thought, how much consideration has gone into the financial aspects of whatever job or project it is. Does that make sense? And so the number itself is not important. And builders are a great example of this because like I've seen projects go triple their budget. So the client gives a budget in the initial stages, and then the budget just keeps going and going and going. Builders would have seen like it's just like the budget they start with is very rarely the budget they finish with, especially
Was
when
the
you do renovation
CFMEU involved?
extension type stuff. What's that?
Was the CFMEU involved?
No. No. No, we're not talking about the tunnel, mate. That would
We're
be well and
building
truly
futures.
more than three times, by the way. I'm sure of it. That's a great, that is
That's their
hilarious.
tagline, isn't it? We're building Victoria's future.
Yeah, yeah.
But when will they be finished building? Ah, we're building the future.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to go there. We'll all end up, if we start talking about politics and how much wastage there is, we're going to all end up depressed by the end of the night.
I think that's two strikes for me. Third, I'm out. I'm sorry.
With the inappropriate stuff. No, that wasn't inappropriate. Cool. So does that make sense? Budget, just shift what you're thinking about, what you're trying to get with the budget. You don't need the number is a lot less important than the amount of consideration that's gone into it. Okay? It's just like you just need to know. It's like if you're talking budget, like let's say it's a larger job and they need finance for it. It's like, well, yeah, we've already actually approached our broker, and that's more important than just knowing the number. A, for authority. So here's something interesting. When you're having conversations with clients, right? The person that normally gives the go ahead and has the authority to actually give the go ahead, who is that?
The wife.
The wife, right? Is anyone going to argue with that? Is anyone going to say, no, it's just the husband wears the pants?
Sometimes the husband is a bit of a, Nazi with the finances, but usually it's the wife that ticks off on it, in my experience.
Yeah.
Customers always love it. I always refer to them as the Minister of War and Finance.
That's right. Yeah, it is without being sexist. It's normally like everybody tells me the feedback that I always get is it's 80% the wife, right? And so, in other words, if you're having a conversation, it's an important conversation. You need to make sure that the people with the authority to make the decision are in that conversation, right? If that's 80% of the time, that's the wife. You might want to make sure if it's husband and wife, you might want to make sure they're both there, or at least the wife's there.
Terence, I had one recently. A guy asked me to survey for the whole house, do some locks. Seemed pretty standard. And when it came to coming on site, it wasn't a large amount initially, so it was paid. He said, "Oh, well, email me the tax invoice and we'll get that bank transferred." And it turns out this guy has money, but he has someone to sign off on purchases.
Yep.
Yeah, because he's a little bit out of control with the inheritance. So,
right.
We did get paid, but for the future works, we got it prepaid to save confusion.
Right.
But yes, it wasn't. It was the first time for me that I had to go to like a third party, like it's someone legally in charge of the money. So he has the money, he just needs the authority to release it.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So knowing it's very important to know who's actually going to pay the bill.
Absolutely. Yeah. So and then the question is, well, what questions can we add into our sales process to make sure that we're speaking with someone with the right authority? And I think you've kind of almost gone there, but it's like, is there anyone else that needs to be involved in this conversation? Right. He's probably asked.
Yeah. That's the broad stroke. Is there anyone else who needs to be involved in completing the payment? Yeah.
Right.
I've got an example of that. If you've got time for a little story.
There you go.
So I have got a pretty big job in the pipeline for 3 huge retractable roof systems for a renovation project in Rye, and I've been in touch with the architects since the planning stages, and then went and had a meeting with the architect and client up in the city, and went over all of the features and benefits of the system we've gone with, and sort of got the approval from the client at the end of that meeting for the go ahead, and sent them. Basically spoke to the architect after that and said, okay, well, we want to lock this in, even though it's it's a few months out before we're going to be actually installing it. We want to lock it in and get a commitment and get a deposit. And they said, oh, well, you send the deposit off to the builder. And so I said, okay, all right, and sent the invoice to the builder. And the builder responded a few weeks later saying, basically, sorry, this isn't happening for 6 months. We won't be paying this invoice at this stage, and we'll touch base with you down the track a bit and come back and revisit it then. And I was like, well, I've pretty much had approval from the client. I thought that this was a done deal, and I'm getting resistance from the builder, and he doesn't. I don't know. In the end, like recently, like it's been 6 months saga, and they've had me in on Zoom meetings and stuff to go over all of the details of how they're all going to work. And I've got zero financial commitment from so far. And I ended up saying to the architect, I said, look, I'm not going to, waste any more of my time until I have some sort of commitment from you. So in the end, I put a bit of pressure on them, and they said, okay, well, we'll just get you to liaise directly with the client and send your invoice to them instead. And so I've done that now, and I'm, hopefully should see the payment come through soon. But yeah, that was a bit of a weird one that I hadn't encountered before, where I perhaps should have asked the question and said at the stage in the meeting that, am I dealing with you or am I dealing with the builder, and clarified that at that stage. So
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. I agree. And it's like, and it's just basically who are the decision makers for this particular project, this product, whatever it is, right? Yeah. Who is going to be involved with making that decision, or who needs to be involved? Yeah. Cool. It's a good lesson, but and again, it just comes back to like a simple framework like this will give you the reminder to make sure you've got their budget, you've got the authority, all those types of things ticked off. So hopefully it won't happen again. Hopefully not. All right. Cool. The next one is need. So and it's just actually assessing the level of need. It's like, how much do they actually need this thing? Because sometimes people will talk about all the stuff that they want, maybe, and not necessarily really need it, and not necessarily go ahead with it from that point. So you're just assessing the need. Again, it's just a reminder. The last one is really, really interesting, and it's timeline. And this is built into the framework as well. But it really is, it's one of those things that you want to make sure that you've got an understanding of their timeline. Like, is it a now thing? Is it a later thing? When are you actually wanting to do this? Sometimes people say, oh, I'm really, I'm excited to do this. Well, as you said, we're not, like, you thought it was just you're going ahead straight away, and that's come out to hey, 6 months down the track, we're going to worry about it then, type of thing. So, and a whole lot of times we wasted up front. So timeline's another important one. But BANT, really, really simple. Is that helpful for you guys? Really simple framework. Just a check-in, right? It's really good.